welcome to Queen City Limits. I'm your host, Bea Thompson. Now, what do air, land, water, and energy create? Well, if you guessed the environment, you'd be exactly correct, because each element plays a very important role in keeping Charlotte vibrant. Let's find out what the city is doing to preserve the quality of life for all our residents. Here with me today are Council Member Edwin Peacock, Gina Shell, who is the Deputy Director of Engineering and Property Management, and Council Member Nancy Carter. Thanks, everybody, for coming in to talk about environment today. Let's start with this. If you start protecting the natural ecosystems and the habitats, of course, that includes our tree canopy. And this city has been named Tree City USA for 30, count them, 30 consecutive years, and that's by the National Arbor Day Foundation. So why is having a tree canopy vital to producing and maintaining a healthy city? Is it that important?
I think it absolutely is. Trees are very symbolic of this city's prosperity. The highest property values across the city are where we have the most tree canopy, and most visitors who come to Charlotte recognize how green we are, and they recognize the trees, and that's something that we have to continue.
Our identity is there, but we're also dealing with air quality because that's part of that cycle, carbon dioxide being handled by our trees, and the heat element. In urban areas, the heat factor of reflection off our concrete, etc., the solid surfaces, is mitigated by our trees. Therefore, we're cooler in the summer. That's good for all of us.
That works for me. You know, this city has had tree canopy studies performed over the last several years. So how does the most current study compare to those in past years? Are we doing anything better, anything new, maintaining? Just where are we with those studies?
Our most recent study was completed in 2008. Okay. Prior to that, the last study was 2002, both using high quality aerial photography to look at our canopy. Between 2002 and 2008, we fell from a canopy of 48% to a canopy of 46%. So we did lose some tree canopy. However, we are still above average, we believe, for cities that are urbanizing like the city of Charlotte. Some of the changes that occurred around the same time, not necessarily related to the analysis, have to do with changes in the tree ordinance. Yeah. We had a group of citizens who worked for 5 years to work on our tree ordinance, look for ways to protect more trees, but also look for ways to give people who are developing property more flexibility in terms of meeting that tree requirement.
You know, we've always been sort of like, you know, you have almost got to have an edict to cut down a tree in Charlotte, because we were like, you can add, but you can't detract. So losing 2%, Gina, is that when you do comparison with other cities, you said we're still holding our own. We've still got a canopy that does make us appealing to other people who want to come here.
We have a canopy that we can be proud of.
Okay.
But we're adding to it. 2,000 trees this year.
Wonderful.
And we're trying to encourage people who live along the streets where there are large urban street trees to plant their own, because there is a life cycle, a natural life cycle, and some of our older trees are getting to the end of their cycle. So if we can all be proactive, we just planted 2 trees in our yard.
And you know, the thing about that is, as we're seeing these storms coming through, more and more of those older trees are the ones that are toppling over. And people are saying, why are so many trees falling over? It's that tree life cycle. A lot have come to the end. Well, the city's tree ordinance was just revised in 2010. So what are some of the revisions, you know, and the benefits to our environment with these revisions?
We worked for, Nancy and I on the Environmental Committee worked for 3 years consecutive. Nancy, I think you actually worked prior to my time on council. Gina had mentioned 5 total years that we've been working on improving the ordinance. And it's really driven to try to strike a balance between, obviously, the enormous amount of growth Charlotte has experienced with also managing the fiscal responsibility of what's involved when you add restrictions to the development community. And so that rub there led to a long and lengthy process in which we really tried to bring the ordinance as close as we could up to the line to let a developer or to let a builder understand, if you're going to make a change to a property, how's that going to affect your bottom line? And I think that at the end the process was not absolutely perfect, but most ordinances aren't. And we did strike that good balance there. It largely is around, and Gina will probably expand on it, is a 15% commercial tree save. This is mainly if a developer is going to try to develop a commercial property, what options and flexibility do they have when they look at a site, no matter how simple or how complex it is, how much are they going to preserve on the trees on that site?
Or if they can't preserve the trees on that site, there's mitigation.
That's right.
And they can plant trees elsewhere in that area. And I stress that, in that area, because I think that's very important to address the heat, the cycling in the area where the trees are removed.
And what we heard from the citizens groups is if you remove trees from my area, I'd like for you to put trees back in my area. This ordinance added so much flexibility that we insisted that if we're going to take trees down in one particular quadrant of the city, we'd like you to put trees back there. But developers want even more options, which is, let's say that we couldn't put as many as we'd like to put back there. There's also going to be essentially a tree bank, a bank of money that we're going to be able to use to plant trees all across the city. The city engineering department's now going to be able to put together larger swaths of trees in areas where we can plant and put more trees and get more bang for our buck.
One question I'm kind of curious about, though, is even if they give money for a tree bank for that area that lost the trees, and the people say, okay, they may have given money for a tree bank, but we don't get any trees back? Is there any way in that ordinance to sort of help them to understand that it would really be wonderful if you put those trees back somewhere on that property? What do you think, Gina?
Well, the mitigation bank that we're using, we are going to try to purchase lands in the same general area, and so restoring the canopy in the same general area that we lost the trees. Another initiative that we're working on right now with the Environment Committee is setting an overall tree canopy goal for the entire city. And we would see this as a goal that would be something that might inspire citizens to plant trees, to reach that goal, to maintain that goal, and keep Charlotte at the top in terms of its tree canopy in comparison to other urbanizing cities. So we're working on that right now.
And partnership. We're looking for partnership with our citizens, getting volunteers, over 500 volunteers one day to plant trees, and it was a wonderful experience. Little bitty fellows out there digging in the soil and putting in their wand or their sapling, and it was grand. And that's what Charlotte is about, public-private partnership and looking forward in the environment.
What got lost in this tree ordinance discussion that we had that was quite lengthy and contentious at times was really about what you're talking about, planting trees. So much of the ordinance dealing was about defensive measures and trying to hold the tree canopy to a certain degree and to mitigate that loss that Gina referenced earlier. But the part that our committee is looking at very closely now is how do we use trees as an offensive weapon to be able to revitalize neighborhoods, to be very strategic on how we're going to be able to use trees to help flourish and make areas better that have been suffering in our city that maybe have lost tree canopy. But I think more importantly, as a council, we need to be looking at how we can use trees to really be strategic and to revitalize a neighborhood that might have always been struggling. We look so closely at this neighborhood studies that we quality of life index, and you reference people that have trees, and that is one of the things that they constantly cite about the value of their home, the value of a region or a neighborhood. So what we plant today is going to have a significant impact down the road.
Looking also at NCDOT, because we have a lot of state roads. If you have a number with a road, that's a state road. And consequently, we have to work with our state personnel to make sure that if they take trees out, then we replace them. And that's part of Independence, looking at Albemarle. The city has taken a lot of responsibility there, and I'm awfully proud of us.
So it's not just business, it's also state government or anyone else who decides they have got a bead on a tree. You've got to work with us. Let's switch gears for a minute. Now, let's talk a little bit about energy efficiency and about conservation. This city was awarded a $6.5 million federal energy efficiency and conservation block grant for 17 projects, and that involves the community and city-owned facilities. What are some of the high-ranking sort of projects that are supposed to be funded, and where's the money going?
This was an exciting initiative for our city, primarily because we've never received this large of amount of money to be able to specifically put towards energy and conservation type objectives. So our city engaged with a group called Camp Dresser McGee to put together an energy and environmental strategy. We put together actually a plan that could be a template for what we're going to be doing in energy and the environment here in the city going forward. But that strategy engaged the citizens and said, what are the things that are important to you? City staff also put their input into it. The one that excites me the most, and I don't know about you, Nancy, was the Neighborhood Energy Challenge, which is now being managed by Daria Milburn, who's heading that up. She's doing a good job of taking, I think it's 6 neighborhoods, and you all correct me if I'm wrong here, I think it's 6 neighborhoods who are essentially going to be competing with each other to see how much better they can do in saving money from their homes, putting together gardening efforts, tree planting efforts, really setting a citizens engaged process as it relates to energy and the environment.
Another example of getting people involved with government as opposed to government doing it all for the people.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Making homes more energy efficient. And that's neighborhoods that competed again. This is Windsor Park on the east side that won one of those grants. And I think there's 17 homes there that are being retrofitted so that they can be more energy efficient, saving people money, saving the city energy, and looking to a green future. But also the community garden at Winterfield Elementary School. And then
I've seen that garden.
it is marvelous. 7 neighborhoods, elementary school children playing violins and singing to open it up to the whole world, in essence, and saying we'll grow vegetables and we'll share them with our neighbors, but we're making it a community. And that's the other benefit of the environmental efforts.
The largest amount of the money that we're spending from that 6.5 is about $1.2 million on commercial retrofits for our city-owned facilities, and that's Gina's category, so I'll let her comment on that. But that was a part that our committee looked at very closely because we knew we could get immediate savings here within our own city itself.
So that kind of grant dollar does help to update, but help to save as well?
Definitely. We are proud of our facilities overall. We are always looking to save energy in our facilities. The building that we're in, the Government Center, has achieved an Energy Star status for 2 years, which means that in benchmarking it in comparison to similar facilities, we do very well in terms of energy. But we're always looking for additional projects to make our facilities more energy efficient, and this funding helped us do that. We are doing some additional work here at the Government Center, systems work, HVAC. We're also doing work at the administration building of Charlotte-Mecklenburg Utilities on Highway 16.
Okay. It's about going green. Absolutely. And it's about being green for quite a long time. And if we have to start with a tree canopy and first winning the Arbor Award, that means we've been doing this for more than a quarter century.
Lead by example.
Yeah.
Our buses are becoming hybrids. We're looking at hybrids for city employees to drive. All sorts of different ways, putting in electrical plugs so electrical vehicles can be refueled in the center of the city and here at our parking facility. And we're looking to be creative. So we love having citizen suggestions. Something new, something innovative. Bring it to us. Bring it on.
Well, you know, as we continue to grow as a city, I'd like to think we do so and our needs to maintain increasing our opportunities, because all of this pulls together. Now, the city is an active partner in the Smart Energy Now. It's the first of its kind public-private collaboration, making those commercial buildings in the urban core more energy efficient because they're older buildings. Now, Duke Energy, Cisco, and Charlotte Center City partners with a goal of reducing energy use by up to 20% by 2016. That might seem like a high goal, but you got to aim high. But it's an achievable goal. So what are some of the partnering initiatives and tactics to reach this goal when city looks at business and says, we're going to partner, here's a goal, what are you going to bring to the table to help us get there?
The lead story on Smart Energy Now probably isn't as well known as it is here in Charlotte as it is around the country and the globe. It's tied to an initiative called the Global Clinton Initiative that we received in New York. Duke Energy President Jim Rogers, Cisco President John Chambers, Anthony Fox, our mayor, and Michael Smith from Charlotte Center City Partners were on the world stage to announce a Smart Energy Now program called Envision Charlotte. We're going to be taking 70 buildings within our I-277 loop, and we're going to be tying not only what I call the technology component of how does a building operate with the smart savings that you can yield from a building, and then show a measurable way that we can reduce greenhouse gases in those buildings. From the greenhouse gas study that we did in 2007 and 2008, we knew that buildings were our largest emitters here in our fleet for our city. So clearly for the private sector, which is what this is going to touch, this is going to have an enormous impact. Nancy and I, when we got on the committee, one of the things that our committee charged ourselves with doing was looking at a larger scale, and we debated about what our mission would be. And our mission was to be a national leader. And at one time, we talked about being a global leader, a world leader, and it got staff a little bit nervous. So now we're known by the Global Clinton Initiative. Charlotte, North Carolina is on the map. And so if we pull this off, not only will we have an enormous victory under our belt, but it's going to, again, it's going to follow through on what we talked about in the committee almost 2.5 years ago. So I'm really proud that we have this partnership between between our city and with these two great giants in the energy world and in the technology world. It's pretty rare.
It's moving internationally, too. We have a partner city, Langfang, in China.
Yes.
And Councilmember James Mitchell and I went with Tony Zhang from the Asian American Chamber to talk with 5 mayors and 85 business leaders from China, and we found another city, Weifang, who is creating a forest city, who is interested in financial services and environmental centrism as we are. There are partners out there who will challenge us, work with us, and improve the entire world, not just our region.
You know, I'm just curious for my own edification and for yours too. You have to know this. How do we compare with other cities that are trying to do this? Because being green and these types of initiatives do put you in the competitive market with other cities when businesses or people are deciding to move someplace. So does this put us in a higher echelon of being as competitive or more so than maybe some other cities?
It does to some degree, but we're competing with some very solidly based, environmentally friendly cities. When you look at Cambridge, Massachusetts, their goals are way beyond ours. We have to catch up. The Northeast is working very hard. The Western states are working very hard. So we have some high benchmarks to compete against. But this idea of our core of our city working together is innovative, and I think can really catapult us where we need to go.
I think you got to put context into play as it relates to the environment in cities in the South. Charlotte will be the leader in the New South, in my opinion, on this subject. Nancy's correct. People look either to Europe or to the West Coast or even some cities to the Northeast when they think of an environmentally friendly city. Charlotte's going to surprise people. I think the Global Clinton Initiative is step one. I think step two is the recognition that we're getting on our tree canopy. Step three, I think, is our recycling initiatives. And step four is really related and tied to our airport, which is doing an enormously fabulous job as it relates to recycling waste, to being very prudent in how they're going about managing their facility itself with new solar additions to the airport scenario. Last year we got ranked the #1 airport in the world. Not many people realize that as well, too. So, again, we've got a chance to be on the global stage, but as far as the regional stage, I think that's really where Charlotte has a chance to shine.
Marketing is a key component to educating the public on all these city issues, in particular the environmental issues. So how is, or for that matter, how has the city educated residents on their role in helping to keep Charlotte's air healthy? Because the city can do just so much, just like being in a marriage. Everybody got to pull together on this.
We're not hiding our light, and it's LED.
Yeah, you don't.
Sorry.
We, through Kim McMillan in Corporate Communications, she did a wonderful initiative to put together a website called Power to Charlotte. That's the #2 Charlotte. Citizens need to go to that website. This is perhaps the one that surprises the most people that I know around the country as well as the world, that when they get a chance to see some of the initiatives that are underway in the city of Charlotte, again, it's somewhat of a surprise to them. Again, they're not thinking of Charlotte as being an environmental leader. They're just not thinking that. One of the things I charged Kim with, and I've talked with her many times about, is I just didn't think we were telling the story. Gina's department has been in the environment for 25, 30 years. They've been actively doing water conservation, building management, taking care of our tree canopy. We just haven't been telling our story very well. And the web obviously allows us to do that in a very successful way. And what Kim has done is she's put together a website that's going to have a lot of citizens interaction. She wants public postings from people that are taking on initiatives, whether it's a community garden, whether it's a tree planting initiative, or just simply getting involved. Nancy and I have so many people. This is probably the #1 focus area where we have people that want to get involved in the city of Charlotte. We've got to have places to put them, and that's a great website to go to.
Power to Charlotte.com or .gov?
.com.
Power and the #2 Charlotte.
Spelled out.
Yeah, spell it all out. We'll make sure that you get that part. Well, touching on the last topic for today's show, I wanted to talk about land use, transportation, specifically the center, the corridors, and the wedges growth, the framework and what's being done to enhance our city through these initiatives. And explain the wedges again, because I think most people understand what a corridor is, but what's a wedge?
It's the neighborhood. It's the quiet neighborhood where you live and work and play. It's where you find the families walking on the streets. Hopefully a sidewalk now, and that's what we're working for in neighborhood improvement. And that means you have choices about how you go to your drugstore, your grocery store. And hopefully those services will be in a small center near you And City Council and our rezoning efforts have been between 97 and 98% adherent to this center quarters and wedges theory. I'm very proud of that. We really do try to recognize that density belongs along the corridors, that our neighborhoods are quiet, tree-canopied areas that we cherish, value, and that our intensity needs to be along those thoroughfares. That leads to transit, that leads to easy access, less congestion, and how we can work with our air quality. And that's an important issue for us right now. We have a problem with the mountains. They let our air just simply percolate here, and we have air challenges. What can we do? Take alternate transportation. Don't mow your lawn until after 5 o'clock in the evening. Conserve your water. If you have to water your lawn and you're still able to, if there's not a drought situation, do it after 5 o'clock at night. That's when we can be conservationists in our own right.
Sounds good to me. Let's see. Wait till after 5 o'clock. Wash your car, let the water run on the grass, and then cut the grass. I don't know. It may work for me, but whatever. The things that we're trying to do is to remind you that you need to learn how to conserve better, and it makes it for a better city for all of us. 1 or 2 things, 3 or 4 things, but do what you can to help. Well, in keeping with the same topic, we've talked about Urban Street Design Guidelines, also known as USDG. That's their acronym. Well, in the past shows that we've done here. Well, how does this particular tool impact the city's everyday living and working needs?
What we're trying to do is make it a walkable community. In the new developments that go up, streets should be no longer than 600 feet long. And that means that you have connectivity and you don't have to walk as far. And when you drive, you're more efficient because you have a grid and you have options. That's an important thing that we realized in Dilworth, in Elizabeth, those areas close in. The connectivity closer in is really high. As you get further out, you get those dead ends. You get isolated neighborhoods. So what we're trying, exactly, and we're trying to avoid that now, so that we're better communicating and better driving if we're still driving. And I hope you'll be walking to some sort of public transit instead. But that's that community building. If you're out on your feet, you're going to meet and greet.
Oh, that's pretty good. That works. That works. Well, I want to end the show with one last comment. So, Council Member Nancy, you have been with Council since, well, we'll just say she's been doing this for a while, and decided to take on some personal time and travel. So the government channel and the staff and I would like to thank you for all that you've been doing.
Thank you, Bea.
And the fact that you are just green to your heart. And that's not with envy. That's with conservation. Yeah. So it's time to ask our council members if they have any final comments they'd like to share with us.
We have 5 focus areas that the City of Charlotte is central to, and I believe that the environment resides right in the middle. In our focus area plan, we realize that the environment touches the other ones, which are transportation, economic development, housing and neighborhood development, and even public safety as well, too. So by being central, it's not an afterthought. It's something that we're thinking about consciously in our city, and as Nancy had mentioned earlier, we're leading by example.
And to look at how we do it, we partner. We partner with our staff. We partner with private enterprise. We partner with the schools. And we partner, best of all, with our citizens. And I think this is where, as Councilmember Peacock said, this is where we shine. We shine green, we shine bright, and we shine internationally.
Well, to paraphrase a song, all we are asking is give the environment a chance. I'd like to thank each of you for being on this show this week. And as always, if you want to learn more about Queen City Limits or to see our show dates and the times, log on to charlottenc.gov and click on the Gov channel logo. Thank you once again for joining us here on Queen City Limits. I'm your host, Bea Thompson, and I'll see you again soon.